How to outsmart a narcissistic child. This child is age 10 and is very strategic, but always likes to have the upper hand, and is very good at fooling teachers, giving them the impression that the child is struggling or failing or doesn't understand information. But actually this child is the exact opposite of the impression that they're giving. They are incredibly gifted, very smart, but are loath to show their true colours. They keep a lot of cards close to their chest and hate to think that people in authority like teachers and parents know their true abilities. So they're very gifted, both academically but also gifted socially in being able to hide their true colours. So for example, if you look at this question, this child is preparing for their SATs exam, and it's a very straightforward question. It just says question 2 of a SATs paper, 32 times 3. Now if you look at the answer, the child has actually written 3 divided by 32 and put 8. 8 threes are 24, so they've just made up the answer 8, by the way. And I was watching this child do it, and I turned to him, knowing full well that he's just turned a multiplication sum into a division. And all I said to him was, "Are you serious?" And he sort of pretended as if, "Oh, I didn't realise that I had actually done a division when I should have done multiplication." And within seconds, he then crossed this out, as you can see, and he actually then did the right answer. 32 times 3 gives you 96. What's really interesting is if you look at the 32 and the 3, there's an awful lot of pencil going over lines. You see how thick the lines are, the 3 and the 2 and the 3. This actually shows suppressed anger that's coming out, because he was found out the game was up. But by the time he wrote the answer, 96, he'd calmed down a bit. If you can see the actual heaviness of the lines is less when it comes to the answer. So he got over the anger of being found out. But this child is very manipulative and does not normally get found out in a classroom situation. So his classroom teacher would be oblivious to the games that this child is following through. But because of my own background, I'm able to read between the lines and see the games that are being played, and actually exposing the child in a nice way, but exposing the child, saying the games are not going to work with me. But in exposing it in a nice, calm way, you are able to help the child grow out of this approach. This is actually quite narcissistic. What you want is to help the child get out of these games, because although it helps them on one level, they get out of doing harder work. They get out of doing work they don't want to do. They basically cherry pick the work they want to do and what they don't want to do. And also they end up being in control. They are in the superior position, and they give their parents and their teachers the absolute wrong impression of their true ability. So to sum up, basically, let me give you an insight into how gifted this child is. So the question was 32 times 3, and he basically kindly obliged and wrote it out very angrily, if you remember. 32 times 3 gives you 96. As I've rewritten it here for you. But he actually does not need to write it out in order to solve the problem. That's how smart he is. But he's basically obliging me and doing me a favour He is that smart. So everything he does is a game. This is the way his brain naturally works. He can look at the sum, 32 times 3, and his brain can see that the method is 3 times 3 gives you 9, and then 2 times 3 gives you 6, answer 96. He actually can do this sum in seconds. But he's hiding that ability. But this is how gifted and smart he is. But socially, he likes to dumb down. Dumb down in terms of giving the impression that, oh, if I write it out, I'll get the answer right. When actually he doesn't need to write it out in the first place. His other dumbing down tactic, as I mentioned before, was, well, I'll turn a times into a division. But what I'll do is make up the answer, being 8. So these are all ploys to give the impression that he's actually not very smart. But what is happening to this narcissistic child is that they are incredibly smart and incredibly gifted. But the game is to socially give the impression that he is not smart, that he's not gifted. But it's very difficult to actually see the hidden agendas. But once you see the hidden agendas, the difficulty is now getting the child to own up to it and start to show socially that they are incredibly gifted and incredibly smart. And this is where the hard work begins.